A very warm welcome to all of you joining us today on yet another edition of the Spotlight. Today we are here to speak on the importance of ethical media reporting here in Sri Lanka. In an age where information spreads rapidly, the media plays a key role in sharing accurate and fair news to the general public. As a responsible and trusted media organization, it is important to take important steps and initiatives to have discussions on how ethical practices can shape the future of media in Sri Lanka. Joining me today in the studios, Attorney at Law Chanakya Jayadeva for Media and Entertainment Law. We also have Mr. Ranil on my extreme left, Mr. Ranil Prasad from Lanka Lifeline to talk on the aspect of mental health. So actually we have had the two of you previously on the show as well on two different occasions. So you spoke on media and law, on mental health. Today we are bringing these, joining.
Very important topic. Thank you for inviting us.
Yes, so today we are joining media and the importance of ethical reporting in media and mental health as well. So thank you for joining me in the studios today. So getting into my question, we have, it's important, as I mentioned in my introduction as well, ethical reporting in Sri Lanka, and the importance of how we practice it is very important. Let's start up with a little awareness from Mr. Ranil Prasad joining us today. What do you think of the ethical reporting here in Sri Lanka?
So thank you once again for having me and also gentlemen. It's a very important topic and a very timely topic to be discussing. First, I think before we do any discussions, I think we need to also acknowledge that the reporting has come a long way from what it was, but still there is room for improvement, and I think now it's a time to do a paradigm shift where we need to act fast, because all these years we have been slowly taking baby steps, but now we need to take concrete and very hard and fast steps to make a change in reporting on on deaths, accidents and suicide, various things, because it does affect, as we discuss, as the discussion goes on we can talk about it. It does affect the public, it does affect the people affected by it, the family, the friends, everyone. So we need, and programs like this will help us to create awareness on this topic.
Mr. Chanakya, let's start off with a brief introduction from your end. Coming from a very strong law background and as a lawyer as well, what do you think of the media landscape in Sri Lanka in terms of ethical reporting on various incidents?
Yeah, I must first of all, once again, thank you for picking this topic, because I don't think anybody has picked this topic in the media per se in Sri Lanka, right? But like Mr. Ranil said, it has come a long way, but there's huge room for improvement. Right? Because I've been lecturing this and actually advising the media institutions as well in Sri Lanka and personalities that your reporting, if I may use that term, sensationalism should not override journalism. It should be the other way around. Journalism should be your target. So when you're doing journalism, as you know, the Press Council, there are guidelines, all the guidelines are given, there are international guidelines, television channels and media institutions and teachers you all, and there are a lot of guidelines. But invariably I see in many areas, Mariela, this is being violated in Sri Lanka, right? Across the board, whether it's a printed press, it's radio, and the radio is the least, and television, right? So it is sad to say. So one of the main areas this gets violated is in the news reporting. Right? And also there are two other areas I'll touch upon as we go on. In doing television documentaries, it gets inadvertently, that means without intention, sometimes violated, and even in other live shows like reality shows. So where, if you ask me where it gets violated as far as law is concerned, a lot of the time the privacy of people are invaded, right? And I would use the term to say unethically invaded. And the ethics of media and television broadcasting, as we are talking about television and other media, does not allow this, right? Does not allow this violation, but it is done.
It's still practiced.
It is in practice, right? And then also it leads to another area of law called defamation, where those people, if they really want, they can sue for defamation. Any of these channels, we can elaborate that as we go on later. And then the other major area of violation is privacy, and then there are laws called data protection in Sri Lanka, where your data, what you have taken, should be protected by the institutions. But that is not being adhered. So these things happen a lot, and I think although it seemingly is on the right trajectory, people are taking more caution, it's time to do a real reality check and do those changes in a way that institutions and journalists don't get landed in suits, because very soon there will be suits on these areas, and also the affecting, how it affects, I think Ranil will talk more on that, how it affects your health, especially the mental health of people, will stop. Because this happens not only to celebrities, it happens to normal people as well at the moment. Only when it happens to you, you will know how much it affects. And sometimes, I must tell you, going to court and going through that arduous process of couple of years, even the fastest case anywhere in the world, and the compensation you get might be too late. Might be too late and might not be sufficient. So that's my introduction. We can talk more as we go on.
What about the impact, Mr. Ranil? Now, of course, when certain incidents happen, it affects families, friends, but it also has an impact on the consumers of all this content. People watching content like this on television, and especially on digital media as well, as I think it goes even further on digital media. So what sort of impact do you see, especially in your area of expertise? How does it really get to a person mentally?
So when a thing like this is reported, there is something called copycat suicide, where some people might be actually thinking of it but not wanting to take action. But when they see something, when they see the media covering it, when they see it posted everywhere, then they think, okay, this is how I should do it. Because they be thinking about it, but they will not be thinking about a method. Because when we report the methods, we report where it happened, how it happened, all that. So it directly affects people who are thinking about it. So that is very, very dangerous. And even if we see during when a suicide is sensationalized, definitely there is a peak in suicides in Sri Lanka. Not only in Sri Lanka, around the world. Whenever, for example, if a famous person ends their own life, or even if someone else, right? Human is a human. When they end their life and when it's reported like this, there is a definite peak. And it also, imagine what the family goes through, right? When it's posted on social media. I mean, pictures are shared without without even clarifying. They're just shared, and these pictures can come back to the family. I mean, people can show the family that this is being shared. How will it affect them? And then the neighbors, the people who are around them, what will they be thinking about the family? So there is a huge repercussion of reporting this wrong.
Does the media actually have, of course, when incidents take place, Mr. Chanakya, it's obvious that the media has to gather information.
Yes, you have to report.
That is
no argument there.
Yes, but do they have the right to actually broadcast material?
They do. Reporting is part of broadcasting. This is the olden days. The reporting was press, then it came to radio, then it came to television. So you are given the chance to report. But that's why the Press Council and other laws and other guidelines, I must say not laws, rather guidelines, are being given. This is how you should do it. Now, if you look at international media, I was actually speaking to an international correspondent. He was saying they are given a guideline, a booklet, and they adhere to that, because otherwise they get sacked, right? Even how you shoot in a particular place, how the angles and all that, they are all given in a manual. I don't know whether Sri Lankan television industry has not done it so far to that extent, but still there are basic guidelines. Now, if you look at to pick a point from what Mr. Ranil said, the suicide and criminal things that happens, it affects a lot. If I may take two examples from recent past. If you remember the famous Sri Lankan cricketer's alleged rape case, which of course he won later. Up to now, have you seen the lady, the victim? The Australian media did not show her. Have you seen the visuals of the footage and all those things? No. Only limited visuals were released much later by the judge after the trial process, because that is to protect that victim's identity. Because if the victim, while the trial is going on, the government was fighting for him, seeing these things, they get really upset. right? In addition to being raped, because I remember certain olden days they were saying, one lady was saying was not in this case, some other case she was raped twice. Once by the man, second by the media. So you cannot do that. You can't have a trial by media. That I will harp on. But there's a judicial system established in every country to do that trial. And then if you take the very recent thing last weekend, in the Trump shooting, there was a shooting at the Trump's, one of the Donald Trump's US Republican presidential candidates, one of his meetings. And there's another fireman who died when they counteract the security forces. Up to now, we have only seen he and his family visual, still shot. We have not seen the way where he fell down, his body from the mortuary, these things like that, and how he got injured. Have you seen those visuals? Those visuals are there. Somebody has shot them. They're not there anywhere. Why is that? Ethical reporting. CNN, Fox News, any channel, international channel did not touch upon them. They don't have to be told, but they know they shouldn't do that, because it will imagine, like he very correctly pointed out, Mr. Ranil, the impact. Now, survived. His wife and children survived. Imagine these things going on television in America, all over the world, repeatedly. How much that impact, can I use this term, secondary impact, we can call it, secondary impact on the family and friends can be worse done by when it is reported in that unethical manner, Maria, because remember, visual medium is the most powerful medium on earth.
True.
It's not like radio, people also say, or print media, visual media, like you pointed out about the social media, because things, once you report it, can go on any television channel or any other this thing, it goes on YouTube and other channels, then it get viral, it's repeatedly there, then your friends keep on sending it to you, right? Your other people keeps on sending it to you. Where is this going to end? So it is up to the journalist to take this thing on, or take account on this. People who are, I'm not saying everybody is doing this, people who are doing this, take account on this, and for the institutions also to see how this can be mitigated. We'll go into other areas of law as we go on.
Yes, gentlemen, but one might say we blur out the images. The identity is not revealed, but basic image is revealed, but the identity is blurred.
Yeah.
Does that still help?
It does, but I have seen that being done and not done both in international media. I'm not just saying you should blindly copy what international media is doing, but is that necessary is the thing. To draw up your report, is that necessary? In the olden days we had sketch artists, people who can sketch. Sometimes you can sketch the incident, right? But instead, if you take the very images, blur them and make a storyboard and create something, sometimes investigation is still going on in that particular suicide or whatever thing, right? And you have, from the visuals you got, you have created something and you have put it on air. So it creates in the public mind a different outcome to the whole thing. So that's what I mentioned about trial by media. You cannot have trial by media when there's a judicial system established in every country to do that, and there is police force, there's law enforcement, there are lawyers, there's government. Those people will do that job. And if I may ask, one gentleman from a big media company asked me when I was doing this very same lecture one day. Now, sometimes authorities tells us to cooperate with them and give the visuals if we have. I said that's fine. That you should do as a citizen. You should do if you have visuals as a media person or your reporters, which the police or somebody might need for investigation. If they ask, they should, because police or whoever is asking that to be given to the judge for judicious purpose. Judicious purposes, it is at the end of the day, it is done by a court,
yeah,
or a jury or whatever. So that is a closed door assessment they are doing. For that purpose, you should help if you have visuals. Right? And if you are a journalist, if you go in some place and if there's some kind of a attack or something like that, and if you have visuals which the other media doesn't have, you should, I believe you should share that with the authority so that it will help them
but not
achieve
for
justice.
the public.
Not for the public. You can, there are limited ways, even for the public, from that visual, you would know to report that this incident took place. There's limited visuals you can do. Now I'll take the same example since you asked me this, if I may take 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Trump shooting. They showed us the guy the sniper who shot and killed the person who was shooting Trump. They show that from the rooftop, but they don't show the person even the person who shot Donald Trump. They're not showing he's getting blood shots and falling and dying, nor the other firemen. Why is that they're not doing that? I think I touched my mic and make a noise. Sorry for that. So that is because There are ways you can use the visuals to do that. That guideline is, Mariela, there already.
Yeah.
I don't know why people are not following that. I think it's time to enforce that guideline.
Sensationalizing. We see many incidents happening globally as well. But as Mr. Chanakya rightly mentioned, none of these are put out across in a way that would harm the reputation and also the mental well-being. It comes down mostly importantly to that as well. Foreign versus local media, how would you interpret it, Mr. Ranil?
So when it comes to sensationalizing, unfortunately we put a background music, we show the corridors, we show the rooms, we blur out, but I mean people can clearly see, right, what has happened there, right, because our everyone, right, has a vivid imagination. Okay, you know, I'm not only talking about suicide, even a murder case, even an accident, right, people crying on the road. I mean, I've seen clips where the camera is right in the face of the mother who lost their child, right. I mean, imagine the plight. Why do you want to report something like that? I really don't understand. There are enough news to be reported, which is being reported very well. So this, it takes about, I mean, some have gone up to about 3-4 minutes, the clips,
Yeah.
right, with background music, like it's like a horror movie, right. So that has a huge impact. Like I said earlier, people thinking, or people you know, in a difficult position might think, okay, I'll end my life. I'll take this opportunity. And of course, in other countries, as soon as a tragic news is reported, the helplines are being shared. We have Lanka Lifeline 1375, we have NIMH 1926, we have CCC line 1333. So there are enough helplines, there are enough organizations that are ready to handle this kind of you know, situation. If there are cause, if people are feeling stressed, if people are feeling bad after seeing this kind of clips, there are people. So what we need to do is we need to report them very carefully without, I think, even blurring. You know, when you show the area, when you show what is happening, when you show the blood, it can affect people, right? It can affect people. I mean, movies are 13 rated, PG rated, R rated for a reason, right? Because it says in the movie, if you know, violence, killing, all that is said. So there is a reason why it's said. So many organizations overseas, as soon as something tragic is reported, the numbers are shared on television, even on print media. I have seen some organizations already doing it, and we are very thankful, we are very grateful for that. But one or two can't do it. Everyone has to do it.
It's a collective effort.
It's a collective effort, right? So we need to do this kind of change.
What more do you think the media, what more can we do?
So one thing, like I said, be careful when we are reporting, right? Maybe, you know, not dedicate so much of time to something like that, right? Share the report, and you know, maybe a message of condolence, and then share the numbers, asking people, you know, just a troller underneath, right, saying that if you're feeling stressed by seeing this, you can you know, call these numbers. Also, don't sensationalize, right? Don't make it into a drama. And there are some songs, there are some teledrama clips, right? I'm sure as a channel you have the right not to play those. So the song might be good, but the message that is carried, if it's regarding, you know, a death or killing, murder or suicide, then you don't play it. Because sometimes people want to sell a product by, you know, publishing negative things, and that doesn't help the mass, right? And that doesn't help the families that are affected.
Mr. Chanakya, I would pose this question to you hypothetically. I would use myself as an example so that no one can pinpoint fingers.
Okay.
I'm from the media.
Yeah.
Let's say an incident takes place and I want to break the news first. Do I have the same privilege as a police officer would to say, I am from the media, give me the footage, give me all the information?
Well, I don't think the law is very clear in that in Sri Lanka, right? But when media organizations, it depends on whatever the guidelines and the rights you have procured from the media ministry given. You all have certain rights under the, as a journalist, if you have that journalist, that media ID card.
Yes.
For that card, It may be not written law, but there's a lot of respect from people. Right? That's what I'm telling you. One of the things I may have sounded like attacking all those people who are reporting. Yes, but you have to also understand that card you have given as a journalist by the government, it has a lot of respect. People respect that when you say a journalist, because journalists can also help, not also help, they help a lot of people. So if you go with that and ask for footage, right, and I don't think anything wrong asking for the footage. And sometimes what the authorities can't get, you might get. The journalists have lots of access to a lot of places because of their respect and their connections mainly.
Yeah.
So when you get those footage, coming back to what I told, no problem in getting those footage. Come to your editing table, come to sit with your editor, sit with your other journalists when you come back to do the reporting. Then your system should kick into the guidelines you have been given by media, I think the press council, etc. as far as reporting, and you must have your internal way of reporting, Marila, internal way of making a report, those guidelines. Look into those guidelines and see the ethical values other countries put into in their reporting, and make that report without violating people's, what I said in terms of law, privacy, or making them defamatory, or making them have, there's another area called nervous shock. That's a ground where you can file action for damages, creating people bodily nervous shocks, or violating even sometimes their copyright, etc., and without violating any of the laws, and making a bad impact on their minds. And like Mr. Ranil pointed out, it is the survivors who will suffer if there's a suicide or a murder case or something. Imagine that mothers seeing back in the evening the visuals on television when she's crying in front of a mortuary or hospital when the child or son is murdered or something like that. We see that every day. That is not necessary. And like he and me both, I think, were in the same page when we said, do you need to blur and show that story? You don't need to draw a story in a reporting, because they go on this, I know what their thinking line. Their thinking line is we have to analyze the report. Yes, you have to give analytical report, but not at any cost. Not at any cost. So maybe towards later I will tell you what repercussions that can come if it goes to litigation. And also one of the points as far as law is concerned, I see at the moment, I have even told this to other lawyers to look into this, because these things are there now. You said you are a journalist and you go to report, you have only a guideline, right? Guidelines saying these are the ethical guidelines you should follow. It is not necessarily an enforceable law, not necessarily. So if people, journalists and reporting people or YouTubers, or this applies to people who are doing not only mainstream journalism, this applies to what I am saying, to everybody who is having a personal page on YouTube and calling themselves citizen journalists or whatever, that as if they are doing a service. Some of them are doing a service. That if you are not following the guidelines, it will have to be made into a law now, so that it will be enforced faster than you thought. So
now, journalists and media experts have so much of power, as you mentioned.
Yes.
Lots of connections.
And respect also.
And respect.
Yes.
With all of that in play, why do some people still choose to broadcast such material?
That, of course, I think sitting on the other side, you might know better than me.
No, I wish some
joking.
of us had answers to that.
I think it will bring to my, as you asked me to give an introduction, I use the term, same term I will use here. People try to make sensationalism over journalism, Mariela, right? And they have this, and the people who do it in a very primitive, narrow-minded mentality. You know what I mean? They think by doing that, their ratings will go up. Ratings may go up temporarily, but when the public realizes that they are doing doing a bad job here, right? They are not doing a proper thing. These people are doing these things are whack jobs, and they are not good people. They'll slowly distance themselves from that channel or that news program or that reporters thing. So it can happen to all three. It can affect the channel, it can affect that particular program, or it can even affect a particular journalist who's regularly doing this. This is this person's report, no, this is useless. Even if the person has credibility, people will not watch it. You understand?
Yeah.
You're doing a damage to yourself, to your institutions, and to that program, and to the society at large.
On the other hand, I would throw the ball to your court and ask, from the public's point of view, we can't also pinpoint fingers at the media. There is a public responsibility that we have. I mean, I think you all would agree with me on that, because if you get a message, people tend to forward this WhatsApp message that comes on your groups without really double checking, is this accurate, is this real? How do you advise the general public to go about information that comes your way, news reports that come your way? Do not just pass gossip for the sake of passing gossip, just for the sake of having things to talk about. Double check, because whatever news you forward as a message, it can also unintentionally or intentionally harm someone's life. So how would you advise the public when it comes to matters like that?
Actually, the public today have also become journalists, right? They also want to do your job, right? Which is a respected, great, risky, right, job, right? Some people think, you're on TV every day and it's a nice thing to do, but they don't know the back end of it, where how you collect the reports, where you go to, what kind of places you all come from, that kind of working late in the night, running around early mornings. So public thinks, okay, because I have a smartphone, I get some news, I will just share it. Now WhatsApp has come up with a good program called the WhatsApp channel. A lot of people are using that. Now they are trying to become news reporters on the WhatsApp channel, create their own channel and create, share news. Why don't you use that for something positive, right? To help people, to share positive messages. So one thing I do, I get a lot of these messages. As soon as something happens, I get bombarded, I stop sharing them. I don't share them. I just delete it and I stop it, because I don't know whether this is correct or not. Even if it's correct, imagine someone loses a child or a parent or a friend or an uncle or whatever, by suicide or by accident or by murder. How would you feel if this photo is shared around? You need to think that, how would I feel to see my child or my relations or my friend's photo being dragged around? Sometimes they are very negative. Sometimes they call, "Ayyo, this person is crazy for doing this," or sometimes this is a fool for doing this. How would the family feel, right? So what I do personally is I stop sharing. I don't share. And sometimes I send a message to the other person saying this: how would you feel if this was a family member being shared? It can be a murder, suicide, rape, accident, anything, right? So media and the public, we have a responsibility. Social media is there today. We can't stop. We can't stop Instagram, Facebook and WhatsApp, and YouTube and all that. We can't stop that. But use it for the positive thing. When something like this is going around, why don't you go on social media and say, hey, there's a news like this. If you all are getting these posts, stop sharing those. Share the helpline numbers. If you are feeling stressed because of this news, there are helpline numbers. Right? I have seen people do that. I have seen people tagging me and putting the helpline numbers and even telling them, look, there is this person, if you need, talk to him, right? So the public can make a change. We have made changes in the past. We have come through darker situations, and I think we have a huge responsibility, not just, like I said, not just pointing fingers at the media. And the media has come a long way, like both of us agree. Media has come a long way. Even the awareness, about 10 years ago, would we have this kind of conversation? No, nobody would talk about mental health or suicide prevention or ethics on media, right? But today we are openly talking, and that is because there is an improvement. So this has to, like I said, but now it has to be a paradigm shift. Now we need to make real tangible changes where it will not go further.
And real visible changes.
Yes.
And because, just before we head into our break, it's important that the general public also know their role and responsibility, because it also undermines the integrity of journalism as well, because at the same time, media organizations also working tirelessly to bring in accurate information as well. But due to, as I said, social media is also a giant, you can't fight it. It's about living with it and moving on with life around it. So as responsible media organizations, it is also up to us to keep that flame going in terms of accurate reporting. Keeping these thoughts in mind, it is time we head into our first break today. Remain with us and we will be back. Welcome back to the show. We are on the final minutes today. Mr. Chanakya, I would like to pose my question to you. What sort of, briefly if we could talk about, what sort of systems are in place to ensure and to regulate ethical practices of ethical reporting and ethical broadcasting as well?
Yeah. In short, like I said earlier, the ethics, the journalists and television and radio and all this media has to follow reporting is available only as a guideline. But because of the continuous violations which we discussed the last half an hour, I think it's time to make those guidelines a more enforceable law in Sri Lanka. And I think people who are watching this should take note of that and try to make them. And also I'd like to touch upon briefly on the repercussions people, institutions and journalists might have. Now, if a lot of people don't know that the law of privacy is available in Sri Lanka as an actionable law. So, if your privacy is violated, remember that is your persona that is being violated, not the property. So, then you do have the right, and there had been in past instances, to go to court and file action for damages, and there had been successful applications in Sri Lanka. And also, if you are defamed through those things, if you feel your family is defamed, if your reputation, somebody is defamed by showing the visuals of the way he or she died or committed suicide, that's kind of a defamation in a way, right? It is a personal action. You know, it is the person who has to survive to file the defamation actions. Third party probably cannot. But if by the way you know business is affected and certain things are affected, if you feel that your business or yourself is defamed, you can file the defamation action as well, right? Those are two major things. And then I would like to touch upon this thing about sharing, which citizens have a responsibility. I fully agree with both of you. You said we should not share something that is that we are not verified, and just for the sake of sharing, people are sharing. But I would also say that this whole thing, the social media companies, we can't say they don't have a they have done only a service and they don't have a responsibility. It is they who created this situation. The social media giants across the globe, even in US still they are fighting, because the mistake that happened is at a legal level in US, at the most apex court in US, when these social media companies showed them saying that they don't have editorial power, they are not publishers, they are just platforms. So what somebody is putting on a platform, we can't edit, we don't take responsibility, it's there this thing, and that was accepted at the apex court in US at one point. That's a huge mistake, and because of that only, that unlimited, unfettered freedom is there. If they were considered like media institutions with editorial power where they can edit, then there would have been at least upon a complaint saying that, like say some kind of a suicide or murder, some kind of a situation that has been reported by third party people who have cameras and phones and etc. without verification, which affects other people, then you can report and then it can be taken down. But that is not happening properly because of that kind of justification given in the countries where these social media giants servers and all that are staying. So that's a bit unfortunate.
So before we wrap things up, I would want to hear your closing remarks before we close for today. What are your thoughts on the future of ethical reporting in Sri Lanka? Do you think we have a way of moving forward?
Yes, I think one request would be if the government can give more support towards the Directorate of Mental Health, because they were planning on doing some awareness programs, but they are unable to do it because of maybe resources and funding. I think through the government body like that, if we can reach out, and I mean, great resource we have right here, right? I'm so happy to have met him, and thank you for making the introduction. I'll be using you a lot, sir, in the future.
Yeah.
So I think we need to create awareness, right? We can't just point fingers, and that awareness has been created, but maybe a reminder has to be, a refresher has to be done now and again. There are helplines. I'm sure the helplines will be shared, right? 1375 is Lanka Lifeline. You can, if you are feeling stressed or if you're feeling down by listening to any of these or by seeing any disturbing news, you can call us. The service is available. And again, the media has come a long way. Media also has to create the awareness on this kind of things, and also the public has to take responsibility and be careful on what you're sharing, because this can also happen to you.
Perfect. So your closing remarks.
Well, I think as journalists, I mean, there are everybody is not doing this violation, you know that.
Yes.
Every channel or every media institution or every program is not doing this violation, but there is the odd one out, right? It is for the odd one out to realize that, you know, you can't go forward like this. And but like this gentleman pointed out also earlier, that we can't stop citizen journalism, people reporting from their own. So there has to be some kind of a control on that, has to be done. That's also self-discipline, because in the days internet came, I remember we were telling, it has to be self-regulated than regulated. Internet is something like that. You cannot regulate it fully with law, because law will never be enough, because they'll find some loophole, technological loophole to go out from that and do it. So, but all in all, to harp, I think for the third time, the best way to curtail this kind of unethical reporting, which has caused all these things which we discussed the last so many minutes, is that the ethical guidelines which are not followed by many people, if we make them enforceable law, that will help to curb this problem. I think it's time we make ethical guidelines and enforceable law more than it is as now.
Well, thank you for joining us on the show, and these conversations have to be continued for the greater good. And as I mentioned, we had these two gentlemen previously on the show, but on in their own respective topics on different occasions. But today we decided to have both of them together because it is pivotal that we take our choices quite seriously in terms of ethical reporting. And as a responsible media organization, we are doing our part to promote the greater good for Sri Lanka in terms of ethical reporting as well. So I was in conversation with attorney at law Chanakya Jayadeva for media and entertainment law in Sri Lanka, and Mr. Ranil Prasad from Lanka Lifeline to speak to us on mental health. Media and mental health go hand in hand, especially in this day and age. So thank you for joining us today, and wishing the two of you nothing but the best in all your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us.
And that brings us to the end of yet another edition on the Spotlight. Join us again next time, same place, for a story that will ignite change. Until we meet again, stay safe.